Hello there, welcome back to another review. So some more Shaolin based action for you guys today from the world of Shaw Brothers, and the movie in question that we're going to be looking at is the Shaolin Temple, which is otherwise known as Death Chamber. I mean, that title just rolls right off the tongue, right? The film serves as a sort of prequel to the 5 Shaolin Masters, which I reviewed and looked at previously, and it has largely a good chunk or a good bulk of the same cast that were in that film. At least some of the big hitters are back in this one as well. We get David Chang's back, T. Lung's there, Alexander Fu Sheng's there, Kuan-chun's in this one. But the added bonus with this film and what makes it so special is that some of the Venom mob come along for the ride too. That's right, some of the Venom mob are actually in this one, which makes it worth checking out on its own. We have Philip Kwok, Chang Sheng, Lu Feng is in this one. We even have Joseph Kyo regular Li Yi Min is in this film. So if you've seen any of them classic Joseph Kyo films, you'll recognise Li Yi Min here. So yet again, it's a real huge ensemble, fantastic cast that we get in this one that was made all the way back in 1976. Now, 5 Shaolin Masters is set in the countryside after the destruction of the Shaolin Temple. This movie, however, much like the 36 Chambers of Shaolin, serves as a temple movie. By that, what I mean is, you as the viewer, once you get to this temple, you're not leaving for a good long while. The whole point of the movie, like the 36 Chambers, is it is very much a training movie. And the great thing is with this film as well, like the whole ensemble cast, like because you've got such a wide group of people here and they all want to join Shaolin and they all want to be trained and they all want to learn martial arts or want to learn Kung Fu, and because everybody's involved, it's not just like Gordon Liu, 36 Chamber, we're just following him and that's it. No, in this film, I say we've got all some of the classic staples of the Shaw Brothers, you know, like back catalogue of actors in T. Lung, David Chang. We also get the Venom mob here as well, all taking part in this big movie. The Venom mob at this point were not really massively, like, hadn't hit sort of the big time, so to speak, like their prime heyday, but it's nice that some members of the movie sort of the mob are actually in this film. What I loved about this movie is that none of them really know each other until they join the temple. It was the temple that brought them together. Much like when you go to school or have a job or go to college, these are people who you've met and become close to, like, due to sheer circumstances. And there's a great sense of sort of camaraderie in that all these people have been brought together because of their desire to learn martial arts, to learn Kung Fu, and they've all been brought together due to the circumstances at hand. And I think an interesting point about this movie, or an interesting fact, is I think, if memory serves, I think it was the first film that Chang made without Liu Lung as his fight choreographer. I could be wrong, but I think by then, as I mentioned in my 5 Shaolin Masters review, it was getting quite strained towards the end of their relationship. Liu Lung obviously wanted to branch off and do his own thing, but I think, if I could be totally wrong, correct me if I am, all you Kung Fu fans out there, but I think this was actually the last film, the first film rather, that Chang worked on without Liu Lung as his fight arranger. Now, Chang was no stranger to making films that sort of had a Shaolin Temple background, or there was Shaolin Temple theme, with the likes of films like Heroes 2, Men from the Monastery, Shaolin Martial Arts, and like I mentioned, 5 Shaolin Masters. I mean, prequels were not really the thing to do, but the fact the film contains largely the same cast as 5 Shaolin Masters, and that film starts sort of how this film ends, it's very hard not to link the two films together, because in a way the film does sort of work as a prequel, like a pseudo prequel, and when you watch the two back to back, they are sort of connected. If you have seen the films that, you know, 5 Shaolin Masters and this film here, if you have seen them, they do sort of link up in a roundabout sort of way, but this film sort of plays out like it was set before with what happened at sort of, you know, where we pick up in with 5 Shaolin Masters. And what is interesting as well about this film is that it sort of features like a sort of passing of the torch, so to speak, for like Chang and the actors he worked with. David Chang and T. Lung were sort of having to make way for the new and upcoming Venom mob. As I say, this wasn't really, they hadn't hit the big time with sort of 5 Venoms and Crippled Avengers and things like that, but I think Chang at this point was very much sort of, okay, I've worked with these guys numerous times, who else, like, who else can I get in? And the Venom mob obviously were a hugely talented group of people, especially Philip Kwok, Sheng, but they all bring something to it. Cheh, and the Venom mob, every single one of them is spectacular in their own right. But I think this was Chang-Chi sort of looking to the future. Who else can I work with? Who's going to be the next big thing? Who's going to be the next big stars of sort of the Shaw Brothers Kung Fu world? So yeah, it's sort of a training movie, and we get a lot of training in this one, and rather than just follow one protagonist, much like the 36 Chambers of Shaolin, here every single one of our fighters has to learn a different different style, or is trained very differently. Philip Kwok is focused in on his jumping, Fu Sheng trains by stoking fires, Li Yimin trains by stirring pots, David Chang uses his chain whip, even T Lung in this film we have T Lung doing Wing Chun. We have T Lung is doing Wing Chun in this movie, which in itself is awesome. But what is great is, as I mentioned, it's not like they're all training, but it's not like they're all training together, they're all got the same teacher, they're all learning the same methods, they're all trained very, very differently. And I can't stress enough, like with Five Shaolin Masters, how much praise should go to Alexander Fu Sheng. I mean, like I mentioned, nothing away from the Venom Mob, nothing away from David Chang, nothing away from T Lung, but Fu Sheng once again proving that he just can deliver that heart to the movie. Fu Sheng, with the majority of films he is in, especially when there's quite a big cast or he's having to share top billing, he really always brings that heart to it. He brings that cheekiness, that humour to it, and Fu Sheng had this incredible ability of sort of grounding the movies. He sort of brought you in a way that sort of none of the actors often could do. But Fu Sheng, yet again here, just on amazing form. And that's what I love about this movie. It's just that you get a great cast, there's great production, different generations of Chang Chi's actors, and some really top-notch training sequences. And it's actually quite a colossal production that looks at the final years of the Shaolin Temple before it burnt down by the Manchus. Yeah, we have Wang Lun Wei, we have Ku Feng, we have, like I say, Lu Fang as our villains, and naturally, of course, there is a spy and a traitor in the ranks. I mean, that's just standard, right, when it comes to a Shaolin Temple movie, or for that matter, any Kung Fu movie in general. And just like the 36 Chambers of Shaolin, I know I keep mentioning that movie, but it's a great film to sort of compare it to, because once you're at this temple, once you're involved with the training, you don't want to leave. And that's exactly how I always felt about 36 Chambers of Shaolin, and I feel exactly the same about this movie here. Once you're at that temple, and all these guys are training, and you get involved with the training, and you're just watching these scenes play out, it's so fun, and you're in such a good place and having such a good time that you never actually do want to leave. And that's very true of the 36 Chambers of Shaolin, and it's very true of this movie here. It's just a good place to be, at the temple with these guys doing some kung fu training. And it has a spectacular opening, this film too, with all the thunder and lightning as we see Kuan-chun and Fu Sheng outside, kneeling, waiting to be admitted into the temple. It is a time when martial arts are forbidden by the Qing government, and the abbot, however, admits people who are willing to show endurance and self-control. They test their wannabe pupils by putting outside water and rice and see if any succumb, the idea being to kneel as long as possible to show your determination. David Chang, T Lung and Wang Lun Wei arrive, who are the only survivors of Master Chang's army, and seek refuge at Shaolin. And there is loads of great moments in this movie. We even get moments of there's even if you've seen the classic Jackie Chan movie, Shaolin Wood of Men, Shaolin Chamber of Death, there's even sort of a nod to that in this film as well, or rather that film had a nod to this, however which way you want to look at it. But there's even like a Wood of Men alley kind of thing going on with this film as well. Like when Fu Sheng tried to escape to get revenge, they have to go down this, like I say, to fight the Wood of Men. So with elements of that, elements of 36 Chambers of Shaolin, classic Chang Chi's actors, as well as some of the Venom Mob, this really isn't one, you don't want to miss this one. Believe you me, you really don't want to miss this movie. And another interesting thing that this film does that really sort of flips it on the head, so to speak, is that, in a lot of Kung Fu movies, somebody's training because they want to get revenge. They're training up because somebody they know's died, or, their mum and dad were killed when they were younger, or whatever it may be. By often not, somebody's being trained up in a Kung Fu movie because they want to get revenge. In this movie, Fu Sheng gets out of the temple, right, and he goes to get revenge, right? He gets revenge. But we don't actually see it. We as the audience don't actually see him getting revenge. We don't actually see this as a viewer. This is all just said in passing a lot in this movie, and the focus here isn't really on vengeance and seeing our heroes out to get justice. The focus here is on that sense of people that have sort of got together during the oppression of the Manchus in order to become stronger, and these masters and Shaolin teachers helping them gain their skills and to mature. So it's mainly not about the after effects of what it helped them achieve. It's mainly about the journey of them going from you know, not knowing any kung fu at all, to, you know, having this group of people that they do know, they've learned new skills, and in many ways, like I say, it's almost like a college movie. You know, it's almost like, okay, we're going through this, they're going through this whole time together, people they didn't know before, they're there for the same reasons because of this Manchu oppression, and in many ways there's a real bondness to this film. There's a real sense of closeness to the film, largely because there is a massive cast, but they all seem to sort of mesh together really well. And much like the Five Shaolin Masters, you could argue it's actually Sheng who is the centre figure here through the movie, but he is backed up and surrounded by such a great supporting cast, and what a treat seeing Li Yumin here too. And I love the ending too, when our abbot and teachers basically accept their fate as the temple burns after they have drunk some poison, and it's our now newly trained heroes who set forth to spread the teaching of Shaolin. Yeah, but at the end of this movie, the abbots and that just sort of give up, because like I say, if you, like I mentioned, where the temple does get burnt down at the end of this one, that's sort of how Five Shaolin Masters starts. That's sort of how that film starts. So going back to what I said at the earlier review, the films are, you could look at them as sort of duology, you could look at them as sort of a double pack of films, like Chang doing a sort of, you know, story of what happened before, or the setup to Five Shaolin Masters. But as I say, this film sort of ends how that film began. But the abbots and, like I say, the teachers at the end of this movie, they just basically give up. They're just like, okay, temple's burning down, we're just going to stay here and accept our fate. And despite Liu Kao Lung not being present for this one in regards to helping out with the action, the finale of the movie really is a sight to behold, and it's a royal rumble basically, a ton of extras like involved in the fight scenes, and it's really epic in its execution. T Lung showing some, like doing some Wing Chun, great bow staff work, we get flips from Kwok complete with over the top sound effects, and the ending is where the film really comes into its own. It's a real good ending, and if you're not overly enjoying the movie, well, there's no reason why you shouldn't, because it's a fantastic movie, but stick around to the ending because it's one hell of a royal rumble. And it's one of them moments where there's no dialogue, you know, there's hardly any dialogue. It's like, let's just fight, this is what the audience has come to see, let's deliver on the action, and this film certainly does do that. So my advice to sum up Shaolin Temple, if you enjoyed Five Shaolin Masters, if you were a fan of that movie, make sure to go and check out this one, because it's a fantastic sort of sequel, prequel, but it's a really, really well paced movie, fantastic training movie, great cast, and there's just not really that much to dislike about this movie. A fantastic effort from Chang, great having the Venom mob here, Sheng sort of stealing the show here and there, heavyweights like T Lung and David Chang along for the ride too, and Shaolin Temple is one you definitely don't want to miss. So thank you very much indeed for watching the review, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.